This video is sponsored by Proton Mail.
From the dawn of time, humans have had the urge to move between places and to sometimes carry things with them. At first, we relied on foot technology. Then we discovered the wheel and put them under our boxes so they're easier to drag along. We then invented horses and put them in front of said boxes, thus creating the coach, a word that comes from the name of some random Hungarian village called Kocs. I'm not making this up, this is actually the origin of the word. Just some random Hungarian village where coaches used to be made. It's called Kocs. It even has a coach museum. Pretty cool. But as our civilizations grew, the coach became increasingly insufficient for inland transportation. That is when the concept of train travel was revealed to Robert Stevenson in a Marmite-induced fever dream. And the rest is history. On the 6th of October 1829, the village of Rainhill in pre-Brexit Britain was the site of a competition that entered the pages of history books. The Rainhill Trials, as they called it, was held to determine whether locomotives really were the future of rail transport. Back in those days, the world's first commercial railway line was about to start operation between Manchester and Liverpool, and company leadership wasn't sure exactly how it should operate. They did not want horses, so the logical solution they ended up with was to have giant steam engines next to the tracks, which would drag carriages with cables. But George Stephenson begged to differ. He saw through management's tech-pro attitude and proposed to put the steam engines on the rails instead. What if, instead of all these cables, the steam engines would drag the cars directly and move along with them? Company management agreed to test the idea in a great competition of experimental steam locomotives, with a fabulous grand prize of £55,000 in today's money. Of the 5 locomotives, one of them being just a horse on a treadmill, only Stephenson's rocket could finish the circuit, winning the grand prize and convincing management that steam locomotives were indeed the way to go. Thus began the age of steam locomotion, which is where many politicians remain mentally to this day. A notable side effect of the Rainhill trials is that many people consider Stephenson to be the inventor of locomotives and Rocket to be the first one ever built. This is not true. Plenty of locomotives got built before, and Rocket wasn't even Stephenson's first. The first locomotive ever built was probably Trevithick's thing in 1804. I'm saying probably because the concept itself is actually pretty simple. Since before Christ, we've had steam engines that did stuff. From the 16th century, we've had steam engines that did useful stuff. And from 1764, ones that actually functioned well. Put such a steam engine in a coach and you got a steam car. Steam, 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 gotta step on the steam. Put the steam car on tracks, and there you go. Trevithick was the first one to do it on record. But who knows, maybe someone else did it somewhere else. Maybe as a miniature or something. Like that small model steam train Americans sent to Japan as a gift in 1854 in exchange for opening up the country for trade, which they had set up in a garden, and a bunch of high-ranking officials sat around it, or on it, watching the model train go round and around. 1 year later, the shogunate ceremonially opened the Tokyo-Nagoya Shinkansen. I'm just kidding. So, trains. Great. We have the locomotive, we have the cars, we have the tracks. Let's start connecting places. Hell yeah. But oh no, what's that? Something is in the way. Something called geography. Valleys, mountains, hills, rivers. How do you get through them? Well, usually you don't, barring some special cases. Because speed, contrary to tech-pro ideas, is not always the most important factor in rail transit. For example, if a rail line is mostly used to haul, say, iron ore, speed doesn't really matter. Ore doesn't spoil, and the people at the end of the track only care about a steady, continuous shipment of it. This is why things like the Hyperport are complete non-starters. That's when some tech pros wanted to ram an elevated cargo hyperloop through Europe so the goods that spent 2 weeks at sea to get there can continue on really fast. Why? If I'm in Europe selling those stupid fucking toys, what are they called? The Furbies, but it's TikTok brain rot. Labubu, right. It even sounds like something a brain-damaged teenager would come up with. Labubu, Labubu, am I Labubu? I want Labubu. So if I'm in Europe selling those, cashing in on the algorithm-induced consumerist hysteria, I don't care how fast the Labubu gets to me. All I care about is that I get my box of Labubu each week so I can sell them at a 700% markup. Similarly, the first rail lines didn't necessarily need to be fast. They needed to be reliable and consistent. So lines tended to follow natural formations. If there was a river going through a mountainous region, the rail would follow the river, for example. Today though, our requirements for rail are different. Passenger rail has become so important that it's no longer enough to just get to places. You want to do it as fast as possible for rail to be viable. Because trains have competition, cars and highways.
And oh no, what's that thing driving towards us? Crap, it's the new cancel culture, ready to fire us like Jimmy Kimmel if we say something that triggers them. Time to keep your private correspondence safe from the mega social justice warriors. And today's sponsor, Proton Mail, is here to do exactly that. Proton Mail is a privacy-focused, end-to-end encrypted email service made to keep your personal data safe from unauthorized eyes. If you accidentally write something the woke mega mob finds unacceptable, well, now they can't read it anymore thanks to Proton Mail's encryption system. Available for both personal and business use, Proton Mail is a free service with optional paid plans for additional benefits. Switching to Proton Mail is easy, even if you already have an email address at one of the big providers, all thanks to the Easy Switch feature that lets you set up email forwarding with just a few clicks. And you can also import your calendar and contacts. Go to proton.me/adamsomething to get started with Proton Mail for free, with optional paid plans for additional benefits and features. That's proton.me/adamsomething. Thank you for checking out Proton Mail.
So if you build a highway next to an old rail line, dear Czech government, and you do not upgrade the rail line, dear Czech rail administration, then everyone will take the fucking highway with their giant SUVs on their way to their jobs in Prague. And then more people on bicycles will die in heavy traffic on the dangerous dog-shit bike infrastructure, dear Zdeněk Hřib. Okay, to be fair, the Czech government is also aware of the need to upgrade railways, not bike paths. Škoda doesn't allow them. And there have been some very good projects already. For example, the line between Prague and České Budějovice, or Budapest. That's where the beer is from. It was upgraded, realigned, and its top speed increased to 200 km per hour. I'm sorry, up to 200 km per hour, which is Rail Directorate newspeak for a 160 km per hour track where trains with a tilt box can sometimes do 200 km per hour when the weather is nice and the planets align. Still, it's a good project. And they are continuing it. This has led to trains on the line becoming competitive with the car. From Prague to Budweis, it takes about an hour and 40 minutes of driving, same as the train. And there are some other projects, like the new high-speed tunnel between Prague and Dresden, another tunnel between Prague and Pilsen towards Bavaria, the Brno-Přerov realignment, and plans for a bunch of straight express lines where long-distance traffic will be transferred to from these squiggly local lines. Austrians went even bigger. The Koralmbahn tunnel, which is about to be inaugurated this year, is a colossal undertaking. A brand new 130 kilometers long line with 100 plus bridges, 50 kilometers of tunnels, and 23 new stations, cutting down travel times from 3 hours to just 45 minutes. Absolutely insane. These massive, expensive projects are necessary to bring the level of railways to 21st century standards. Because no country starts out with a near-perfect rail network and geography. Or do they? What if you had a country that started with excellent geography and a well-planned rail network already in the 19th century? One that would basically correspond to 21st century geometric standards. And what if that country, despite this incredible, one-of-a-kind, legendary starting position, fucked it all up beyond belief? Well, Austria has a neighbor, no, to the east, a country called Hungary. When it comes to rail, Hungary has everything. A landscape flatter than a frying pan, no mountains, barely any hills even, and a rail network that was actually very well built from the beginning, meaning the 19th century. Lines were built mostly straight, they were integrated into cities, had decent capacity. Later upgrades in the early 20th century saw the double tracking of most main lines and further straightenings. Under Soviet occupation, upgrades continued, and by the 1980s, the Hungarian rail network was a thing to behold. It wasn't perfect, and Hungary was still a poor country, but still, it was quite good. Budapest had not one but 3 major railway stations. The southern station in the west, the eastern station in the middle, and the western station in the north. Rolling stock was rather modern for the time, which later included domestically produced push-pull trains that sort of look like modern electric multiple units from a distance. Decent tracks, great geometry, good rolling stock, consistent service, a robust domestic production, push-pull suburban operations with widespread use of control cars, just like in distant, famed Germany with their Gemischtklassiker Halberstädter Mitteleinstiegswagen. Brand new, domestically made suburban push-pulls with even an intercity variant, which was very close to the operational concept of today's rail jets. The flagship fucking service of Austrian railways. And increasingly the Czech railways. Hungarian railways had these 2 decades before its time.
But then came the 1990s, the dark age of rail. Except in Japan. Damn, the shogunate was really right on the money. Welcome to the 90s. The Soviet Union is gone. The world is opening up rapidly. Western capitalism reigns supreme upon the ruins of Soviet state capitalism. Giant, bland glass and steel towers are all the rage. Personal computers, Japanese gadgets, cars that actually turn on in the morning, suburbs, highways, blue jeans, the LA riots. The old was out and the modern was in, which in Hungary meant that the geriatric, oligarchic mafia leading the country until then could finally stop pretending that they gave a shit about any leftist ideals and immediately transitioned into today's right-wing conservative boomers. And right-wing conservative boomers love cars, airplanes and highways, while being anywhere between neutral to openly hostile towards public transit, including rail. This meant that each time the state needed more money, rail was always the first on the chopping block. Hungarian railways, a robust and solid system, would thus begin its long decline. State investment dried up. The country's once massive rail industrial base went bankrupt. Rolling stock procurement ground to a halt. Train stations were literally left to rot. Services like catering were gradually abandoned. The once elegant head stations were flooded with trashy, cheap shops and pubs, growing like tumors on the buildings. This is the Southern Station, or Deli. It's a very high-quality modernist building that looks really cool. Well, it did before it was littered by cheap stores and pubs. Its airy, transparent glass lower floor was plastered up with gaudy advertisements. And they also let a fucking plastic tent be put there, serving as the outdoor terrace for a cheap pub for local alcoholics. The white marble facade started falling down and had to be taken off. Now a massive net covers the entire front, permanently darkening the elegant, spacious ticket hall, which is now in shambles. The ceiling is ripped off, the large exits leading to the street are fenced off permanently. Half of the main hall used to be a food court type of thing. Now it's all closed down and abandoned. And if we look at what's on the tracks, the situation is even worse. The rolling stock base is at its very limit, still running passenger cars built in the early 60s. Except for one procurement of Eurocity cars in the 1990s and of Stadler suburban EMUs bought using EU money, they did absolutely nothing. Oh wait, that's not true. Enter the Intercity Plus, Hungary's brand new domestic car renewal program. A project that failed so hilariously it was killed before even reaching the halfway point. Those newly built cars, of which there are a grand total of 92, often run on the infamous Hungarian Eurocity between Budapest and Berlin. Infamous because those cars are such colossal pieces of shit, it's a miracle they reach their destination. Nothing works on these things. The AC, the reservation system, the onboard information systems, the Wi-Fi, the power plugs, the intercom, something is always broken. Also, I hope you like it when the chair you're sitting on has a sharp, jutting part right under your shoulder blade, where it presses and cuts into your skin for hours, because that is the exact kind of seat on those trains. I've been listening to Czech train people's complaints about these cars for years, even back then, when Czech Railways itself wasn't running the best rolling stock there either, mostly BMZ cars from Simmering. But at least those fucking worked, and now they have decided to upgrade their game further, with the deployment of brand new railjet trains, permanently coupled push-pulls, which now completely cover the Prague-Berlin route, with a single Hungaria left in the schedule, like a pig at a beauty contest. But what's this? Oh my god, it can't be! Has the Hungarian government heard the calling of modern times? Wow, they want to order the same trains as the Czechs, thereby revitalizing their entire international network, which would allow their current cars to be shifted down to domestic routes, and we could finally get rid of all the old, obsolete junk. Whoa, renovation plans for the Western Station, you got it. This looks great. It seems like the long decline of Hungarian rail is over. Oh wait, never mind, they axed all those projects due to a lack of funds, because the EU wouldn't give them money, because they stole too much. But don't worry, plebs. In the meantime, the ruling government's elite gets to sail around on their yachts, and Orbán has built a personal castle for himself next to his village football stadium that has more seats than the village has inhabitants. Oh, what's that? The rail system is falling apart? Fine, fine, fine. We will widen the M1 highway to 6 lanes. Yep. Hey everybody, Future Adam here, jumping in real quick. Shortly after this video was completed, there was a major derailment on one of the Hungarian branch lines. Luckily no dead, just 2 injured, and the reason for this derailment was the catastrophic state of the tracks. And as of now we have confirmation from railway circles that the rescue utility train that was sent to the location derailed as well, which is, needless to say, absolutely incredible.
Itt vagyunk Magyarkúton. Hopp, egy talpa. Na itt egy tipikus vízsák. Én 100 kiló vagyok. És ez a vonat nem 100 kiló, hanem 5x19 tonna. 95 tonna.
As of now, the Minister of Transportation has already commented on the issue, promising line closures because of this accident. I legitimately don't know what to say at this point. Anyway, back to the video.
But wait, they did reconstruct the Budapest-Vienna line parallel to the M1 highway. Well, about 1/6 of it, after it has been left to rot for 30 years. Seriously, the railjet that travels 230 km per hour around Vienna was forced to go 80 to 60 km per hour on multiple Hungarian sections because of bad track alignment they never fixed, or for fear that the catenary poles would fucking collapse, for 3 decades. But finally, this line was reconstructed, and it happened like lightning. One day we saw news about the wooden screws having rotted out or something, so now the tracks are in critical condition, so boom, here we go, reconstruction, get ready for a full lockout. It happened so fast, the government didn't even notify other rail carriers on time, in breach of agreements and contracts they've signed. But usually such reconstructions take years of preparation, so where did they get all these workers and equipment overnight? Well, it turns out this whole project was a type of scam, basically. The tracks were in bad shape, but nowhere near critical. The real problem was on the Budapest-Belgrade line, a partially new, partially reconstructed line between the two capitals with a planned top speed of 160 km per hour. There were some problems, if you can believe it. First, the cost, about 10 million euros per kilometer, on completely flat terrain with no obstacles. High-speed rail usually starts from 12 million, and that's built for 250 km per hour or more. Also, the Hungarian government financed it from a massive Chinese loan, the details of which they classified for the next 10 years. And yet, this line is a Chinese geopolitical project. It's meant to connect Europe with the Chinese port in Thessaloniki. So then why is Hungary taking a Chinese loan to build this project for the benefit of China? This is the geopolitical equivalent of cuckoldry. Oh, but it will return the investment. Yeah, estimates put it between 979 and 2,400 years. But there was another fucking problem. The tracks need this thing called train control, so you always know what's where and you don't crash trains into each other. They wanted to install ETCS, or European Train Control System, or ERTMS if you really insist. They gave the job to the Chinese, who also use ETCS for their own rail network. They can't do it, because their rail system is highly standardized and simplified. European lines famously aren't. So now there are rumors that they will instead install a Hungarian legacy control system called Domino, developed in 1955, which only allows for a top speed of 120 km per hour, and will increase the price tag by further euro millions. The line itself was built by Orbán's friend group, like typical Balkans mafia shit, but with the Chinese fucking up the train control, the whole project had to stop. No works, no money, and the latter is completely unacceptable for Orbán's friends, so they quickly made up a story about the catastrophic defects on the Budapest-Vienna line, which needed to be fixed immediately or else, and then they transferred all their workers and equipment from the Budapest-Belgrade line to the Budapest-Vienna line. And even then, all they did was compensate for the lack of proper cyclical maintenance. And now the line is just sitting there again, slowly decaying, waiting for the next big overhaul in 3 decades. Because Hungarian Railways doesn't get enough funding even for essential maintenance. Train control failure, traction line failure, locomotive breakdown, missing cars, derailment, a complete collapse of the main line to Hungary's main resort area during the summer holiday peak. Take your pick. But to show how on top of things the government is, following the massive summer holiday mainline collapse, the transportation minister ordered 300 buses to Budapest from all over the country to stand ready in case there is another breakdown. So we had 300 buses and their drivers simply milling around the station all day, doing nothing aside from clogging up the streets. Because the collapse happened the day before, not on that day. Also, they failed to provide toilets or even shade to those drivers. Still, the facts are clear. The Hungarian state cannot even organize traffic on one fucking line anymore without constant breakdowns. Or run one fucking train with a consistent level of service. Like, look at this. This is a cross-border intercity train between Miskolc and Košice. What is this shit? A 6-axle V63 locomotive intended for heavy freight trains. A repainted second-generation IC car from the 70s, a suburban car meant for the railway's push-pull trains, and a second-hand ex-Austrian Jenbacher car, also meant for suburban service, followed by 3 Slovakian intercity cars, all the same type and the same level of service. Or how about this? I had to check in with the source for this one. That car right there is a MAV Rail Tours standard-class Schlieren car, which they got as second-hand from Switzerland, which is normally part of special occasion trains or experience rides. Such a car is seen here as part of a regular long-distance train because they had nothing else. And oh hey, what's this car on the right, on this intercity category train?
It's a second-hand Jenbacher suburban car, and the reason for the Hungarian Railways Franken trains is that they really have nothing else. They're not messing with you on purpose. What you see is what they got. This is all they can scrounge up from the depot in the morning, and the little they got left is getting less and less every single day. Meanwhile, delays have gotten so common that the railways were ordered to stop publishing delay statistics and to hide trains with greater delays from the information system. Later on, they just killed the entire system altogether, and they only restored it somewhat after widespread public outrage and ridicule. Now, delay statistics are all bundled together with suburban rail, which is very high frequency and operates mostly with Swiss-made EMUs bought with EU cash on the scant few lines renovated also with EU cash. So those are mostly punctual, thanks to the EU. That way, when combining suburban and long distance, the overall punctuality is 80%. But we know for a fact that right before they stopped publishing detailed statistics, in August 2024, the punctuality of long distance trains was just 32.8%. And this is when we ignore delays of up to 5 minutes. Things have only gotten worse since then. Oh, and Hungarian Railways recently also got caught dumping waste illegally. Here we have a van with the Hungarian State Railways logo pulling up to a trash heap below an underpass and dumping some used furniture. Great. As a result of a right-wing, conservative boomer oligarchy leading the country, Hungarian Rail has become a joke. And, in my opinion, the worst in Europe. Yes, there are worse systems in absolute terms, but those usually never had any promise to begin with. You can show me pictures of Bulgarian main lines or something, where the track is a bunch of branches thrown in the mud with 2 steel pipes slapped on top, but like, yeah, no shit, it's the Balkans, it's always been like that. Hungary, on the other hand, had promise. They had and still have everything for a world-class rail system, only requiring a relatively small investment. No need to dig colossal tunnel systems. The tracks are already there and are completely straight. And yet, they refuse to fund even the bare minimum maintenance of what little they have left. Austria, Czechia, Poland, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, pretty much all other countries in the region are shoveling money into rail, as Hungary does nothing but slowly rots away. As Viktor Orbán flies around the world on private jets and the country's leadership drinks champagne aboard their yachts on the Adriatic Sea. Hopefully though, not for long. Sir, would you like some champagne?
Mi a gecim az a champagne? Kőbányai nincs?